So I am delighted to welcome you to our kickoff webinar using plant empowerment principles in a PRIVA-controlled environment. Today's session is a special introduction to an exclusive online training series created in partnership between PRIVA and the Plant Empowerment Academy. It's going to be about a 30-minute session today. We're going to give you a review of what you can expect to learn from our 4-part learning series on the PRIVA Academy. My name is Henry Van Garman, and I will be your moderator for today. If you have any questions, we'll be taking these at the end of the presentation, just to keep things flowing nicely today. And if you can post your questions in the chat, we'll try to get through them all today. If we don't get through them all today, we can answer those individually and send you an email as follow-up. We have guests from around the world participating, with many from Mexico, Central and South America. So my colleague Paula Sanchez from our Mexico office, she's going to be in the background, and she'll be available on the chat to translate any questions in Spanish if you have them. And then we will relay those to the presenters at the end of the session. Your presenters for today are Mr. Jan Vogt from the Plant Empowerment Academy and Mr. Hein Jespersen from PRIVA. I'm just double checking here. For some reason, I'm not seeing the screen come up. Just bear with me a moment. There we go. Can everyone see the screen on their computer, or are they just seeing my face? Okay. Just bear with me a second. I'll be right back. The plant empowerment philosophy. He has spent decades working with climate controls and sensors. And what makes Jan stand out is how he takes complex growing principles and turns them into practical strategies that growers can actually use. And his work focuses on improving crop performance, boosting efficiency, and driving sustainability. He's recognized worldwide as a leading voice in plant-centered, data-driven cultivation. I'm going to bring up Jan and Hein in a second here. And our second speaker today is my colleague from head office in the Netherlands. And of course, Jan Vogt is also from the Netherlands. Both, it's the end of the day for them, and we're really thankful that they could join us. But our next presenter is Hein Jespersen. Hein is a horticulture consultant at PRIVA and working hands-on typically with growers. He helps optimize climate, water, and energy strategies in the greenhouse. And with a strong expertise in crop cultivation and data-driven growing, he makes complex challenges easier to solve for our customers. Hein uses PRIVA's innovative technologies to create practical solutions for growers, and his focus is typically for customers for higher yields, better quality, and more sustainable operations. Just a few points about today's session. and what we're going to be presenting on the Priva Academy in this 4-part series, we'll be exploring how the principles of plant empowerment can transform the way you grow. You'll discover how this approach helps to improve crop health, reduce resource inputs, and maximize profitability. All very important, while creating a smarter, more sustainable growing strategy with Priva control systems. So if you're a grower seeking data-driven strategies, sustainable yields, and next-level crop performance, this series is good for you. And we hope that you can join us on the Priva Academy starting September 17th. Each of the 4 sessions will be live. They're 60 minutes long, and they will be led by both Jan and Hein. And it's free for Priva Academy subscribers. And at the end of this webinar, there's going to be an information page with the links to sign up for this series on the Academy, on the Priva Academy. And we'll also send a follow-up email to everyone with all the details and links to register. And today, I'm excited. We're going to give away a free plant empowerment book. So for all the participants who have joined us today, we're going to be randomly selecting a name. Now, we can only see who's all joined us today at the end of the webinar. So we'll be randomly selecting a name, and today we'll be sending out an email with all the links and information to join us on the Priva Academy. And we will also show the winner, and this will be randomly chosen. So let's get started. Let me just get things up and running here and get everyone on the stage. So with that, let's get started. Jan, the floor is yours. I'm going to shut off my video, and thank you for again joining us, Jan, today. We're honored to have you as part of this webinar, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me now?
Yes, Jan, we can hear you. You're good.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning to all of you. I think for most of you it's a good morning, but maybe there are also attendees that are in the evening or in the afternoon, like we in Holland. Well, and Henry, thank you so much for your kind introduction, and of course for having me in this Priva webinar. It is an absolute pleasure and privilege to be here together with the Priva team and to have the opportunity to present the Plant Empowerment Academy and the Plant Empowerment Cultivation Concept. And I can say that it's an important milestone for us that Priva has chosen to integrate plant empowerment principles into their controlled environment. And I think that's important because we are convinced that this way many growers who use Priva systems to control their greenhouse conditions will benefit. Because, as the title of this slide suggests, plant empowerment is the natural key to sustainable and profitable growing. And I will try to explain this further in this short introduction. We'll move to the next slide. Yeah. Who are the founders of the Plant Empowerment Academy? As you can see, we are 3 elderly men, and we have been working together for about the last 20 years to develop this plant empowerment cultivation concept. And well, there is Peter Gelen, he is our plant physiologist, and then myself, Jan Voogd. I'm more into the electronics and the sensors. And we also have a mechanical engineer, Peter van Weel. And our expertise in different fields enables us to examine the cultivation process from different angles, which is crucial for taking an integrated approach and finding the optimal solutions from a plant physiological and physical and also a technical point of view. And well, together, I'd like to go to the next slide, but somehow it doesn't work, Henry. But you help me out. Together, we form the Plant Empowerment Academy. And I think this slide speaks for itself. But it is important to underline that we have and will not have any commercial relationship whatsoever with companies or organizations. Except from our books, we do not sell greenhouses, computers, screens, fans, or any other devices or installations. And that is why we can afford to be fully objective and independent. And that's the way we like to keep it also. And that is also reflected in our mission on the next slide, the mission of the Plant Empowerment Academy. Well, we think that growing sufficient healthy food in a sustainable way, which means efficiently using resources such as energy, nutrients, water, and minimally using chemical agents, is a global challenge. And not only for vegetables, but also for flowers and plants. And we should all work together to meet this challenge and freely share our knowledge and experience. And that commercial and competitive interests must not hinder this. Next slide, please. What is the plant empowerment philosophy? Well, when we started our search for sustainable growing 20 years ago, we asked ourselves this question. How is it possible that plants have survived on this planet for millions of years, that we now put them in high-tech greenhouses, which we call protected cultivation, and that these plants get sick and suffer all sorts of pests and diseases? What are we doing wrong? So we started measuring the greenhouse conditions and observing the plants' reactions. And step by step, we developed the insight that plants have to follow the natural laws of plant physiology and physics to maintain their balance. But surprisingly, that the common cultivation methods, at least in the Netherlands, mostly neglect and ignore these laws. And that is why we concluded that we need to change our way of growing. We have to stop disturbing the plant's balances and instead support them. And as you can understand, this also explains the name plant empowerment for this new approach. Next slide. And these are the 6 main balances we need to monitor and support to assure optimal growth. These are the energy, water, and assimilates balance of the plant, and also the energy, moist, and CO2 balance of the greenhouse. And I will not go into detail now because it took us 350 pages in our book to fully describe this. And we want to keep this webinar concise and brief. But we will certainly come to talk about these balances in the next 4 sessions of the webinar series. Let me now summarize the plant empowerment approach in 3 steps. on this next slide. And then we move directly to the next slide. The first step is mastering the plant empowerment concept. And that is described in this book, The Basic Principles. And well, it is an integrated, holistic approach. It is based on the well-known laws of plant physiology and physics. So it's not a meaning or an opinion. It's a very solid and a well-built, well-designed concept. And we only use objective, reliable data from sensors and crop observations. So we said goodbye to the so-called green fingers and feelings on which the common cultivation concepts are based. Next slide. And we go to the second step, that is the plant empowerment digital growing. And that is the application of the concept through a structured method, and that is described in this book, Digital Growing. This is a practical manual that guides you through a uniform monitoring protocol. It tells you what sensors and crop observations are needed and how the data can be interpreted in such a way that it really gives you insights into what is happening in the greenhouse, what is happening with your crop, and what you can do to improve your results. And then we go to step 3. These are the plant empowerment dashboards that present the data in a structured and logical way. As you can see, graphs and tables are arranged in 3 sub-dashboards. And well, we start with the high impact factors that work on the long term and that mainly focus on the sink management, the assimilates demand of the crop, and that has to be aligned with available DLI, the light sum, so the potential production of assimilates throughout the cultivation season. The second one contains the medium impact factors that work on the 24-hour basis and that focus on the assimilates distribution. And this is also known as the RTR strategy. And the third one contains the low impact factors that work on a momentaneous basis. And well, you can say that these are the climate conditions in the greenhouse. And what we do there is focus on maximizing the photosynthesis, maximizing the light use efficiency. And together, that is a structured way to look at the data so that it really supports your decision making. The next slide shows how we envision the learning community with our ambassadors. If we all share a common goal, a common cultivation concept, and a common approach, we can speed up the learning curve and make the transition towards sustainable and profitable horticulture happen. And so that's what we try to do by sharing our knowledge and experience, by sharing the data in a structured and uniform way. We can put all our experience and knowledge together and speed up the learning curve. Well, that's it. And I would like to conclude this introduction with a short video animation that is called Plant Empowerment in 150 seconds. Can you start us, Henry?
children. We have good news for you. Optimal production, quality and profit in horticulture are no longer in contradiction with sustainability and efficient use of energy, water and nutrients. Surprisingly, nature itself provides the key to the solution. Plants have already known how to do this for millions of years. The only thing we have to do is support their natural growing power by creating the optimal conditions. However, this requires an innovative cultivation method that manages the crop's energy, water and assimilates balances. One that ensures strong, healthy, resilient and efficient growth of our plants, resulting in high production and quality. This revolutionary, sustainable and profitable cultivation method is growing by plant empowerment. It is an integrated approach based on both plant physiology and physics. Sensors and objective observations monitor growth. This way, strategies and decisions are based on reliable data instead of green fingers and feelings. Many growers are already benefiting from the fantastic results. It also enables the application of data-driven growing techniques, such as artificial intelligence. Moreover, it speeds up the learning curve for young growers, as well as experienced growers and consultants. Growers, researchers and other stakeholders around the globe can easily exchange new insights and experiences on sustainable cultivation in learning communities. This way, growing by plant empowerment is the roadmap to sustainable and profitable horticulture worldwide. We can make this transition happen by working together and sharing knowledge and experiences in the Plant Empowerment Academy. Do you want to join our learning community and start growing by plant empowerment? Get in touch with us via our website plantempowerment.academy.
Well, we agreed that we do the questions in the end. So please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Well, this last slide, maybe you get curious about what's in the books, the basic principles and digital growing. So I can invite you to visit our website at the Plant Empowerment Academy. Thank you so much for your attention. And now we give the floor to Hein to explain the contents of the 4 webinars in this series.
Thank you. Now start, Henry.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Sorry, Jan is off stage already, but he'll be back in the end for some questions. Thank you very much, Jan, for your introduction to the plant empowerment philosophy. I think there's a lot of great content that we're going to be expecting in that 4-part series. But next up is Hein. Hein, the floor is all yours. We're going to get you started on the correct slide here, and away you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Good morning, all of you. Indeed, I'm Hein Jaspersen, and as Henry told you, I work as a consultant for Priva. In total, my experience in horticulture is about 35 years now. And I did many consultancy, especially in vegetable growing, so like eggplants and sweet pepper crops. Nowadays, for Priva, I also develop training materials. I provide group trainings, but also I do some individual training sessions, both at our office for learning about the Priva controls, but also on site, and where I discuss with my customers about growing crops and how to optimize strategies. And of course, we also have many times discussions about the principles of the plant empowerment. So what I often do with my customers is also looking at graph, what's going on and what is good, what will be our strategies. And in fact, that are all kinds of topics what we also will discuss the coming sessions. And well, it's very nice to combine the traditional insights with the differences with the plant empowerment ideas. So, and that is what we are going to discuss the coming period. And Jan Voogd will explain about different topics in the different sessions about climate control. And maybe for the next slide, you can switch over to the next slide. There it is. So we have some different topics, and you see we connect the principles of plant empowerment with the possibilities in the process computer of Priva. And in all those sessions, we will go through a certain topic, and then I will explain about some possibilities. I cannot explain everything because that would take too much time, but some possibilities, how you can manage it in the Priva process computer. Next slide, please. So in the first session is pointed out how temperature differences in greenhouse occur. And by more, the effects of leeward and windward ventilation on greenhouse climate are explained. I will clarify some different options in Priva Connect, how you can influence the balance between the leeward and the windward sides of the vents, because that will have a lot of influence in the greenhouse climate. So Jan Voogd will explain about some effects based on the principles of plant empowerment, and I will show you some possibilities how you can change your settings and make the differences in the balance between lee and the windward side. During that session, there will be a combination of the flexible minimum vent settings, which you can set in vent strategies for both lee side and wind side. And there, of course, we will also discuss about the vent control itself and the ventilation control. In fact, a goal for you will be to create a stable climate and keep the crop activated with the stomata open so maximum as possible. And in that way, the crop can create its own climate, cool itself down, create its own humidity. And nice will be if the crop also creates its own climate, cools down the temperature. You don't need to vent so much and keep the CO2 in the greenhouse as much as possible so that it's available for the crop. So limited venting will help to keep the dose CO2 in the greenhouse. So that's are some points we will discuss in the first session. Next slide, please. And the second session is more about humidity control in the greenhouse. And there are different situations. You can have humidity control when curtains are open, a totally different situation when the curtains are active, for example, for energy curtains during the night. In the second session, from my side, the focus will be on an adjusted vent and ventilation strategy when the curtains are active. And because you never know before at what moment exactly the curtains will be closed, I will show you how you can make a flexible setup that at the moment the curtains will be activated, then the strategies, for example, the vent strategy and the ventilation strategy, will automatically be adjusted to that other condition when the curtains are closed. For example, for humidity control, maybe you want when the curtain is closed, maybe you want to vent more aggressively. How you can set it up, that's what I will tell you in the next session. And maybe you decide gapping is needed. It's not about ideas of the plant empowerment principles, but if still you think, well, I need gaps, I will show you a method how you can make the gapping as optimum as possible with the less negative impact on the crop So in fact, a type of gapping that it is as constant as possible, so that the greenhouse temperature will not fluctuate too much, and that the humidity will stay stable. Next slide, please. For the third session, it's more about using the curtains as a shading curtain. Jan will explain a lot about the needs for some moments to protect the crop against intense outside influences. And from my side, I'll explain a little bit about using the curtain for shading, but also to protect the crop from too intense irradiation, and how you can set it up that it reacts smoothly. That will be discussed in this session. Next slide, please. And then in the last session, the fourth session, it is about plant balance in terms of temperature and radiation, and in other words, about the RTR. In the Priva Connect computer, it is already possible to control the 24-hour temperature by means of the 24-hour temperature strategy control. And then you can influence the strategies of heating and ventilation in order to come closer to the desired 24-hour temperature related to the radiation. Well, it is possible to control the 24-hour temperature, so to influence your ventilation and heating strategy, but it is not necessary to do that. But still, you can see in a so-called scatter plot in Priva Operator what is the realized balance between radiation and temperature. So whether you want to control it, yes or no, you can always see it in the operator graph. And how you can find that scatter plot, how you can interpret it, that will be discussed in the last fourth session of this series of webinars. So that's in short the topics we are going to discuss in the forthcoming sessions. And my goal is, of course, to explain some of the possibilities in Connext, keeping in mind the principles of the plant empowerment. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Hein. Of course, today was just a preview of what you can expect in the four-part series. So I appreciate some of the questions, but I think we're going to be getting deeper into the material, of course, during the course. And even then, you know, there's, as Jan explained earlier, there is a lot of information and things to learn in the book, Plant Empowerment. So we do have a couple of questions, and thank you, Jan and Hein, for your presentations. I think it's very clear. We just have a few questions that have come up, and so I think what you've presented today is clear. Hopefully, any questions that we do get afterwards, we'll try to answer those for you. One of the questions that did come up or it's more a statement and then a question, is many of the growers have a lot of tools in the growing box. Would you recommend adding the continuous reading sensor for chlorophyll production as an additional tool to empower the grower decisions? Jan, you are muted. Let me. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Well, that's a question that I often get, and I think it's a good thing to monitor the chlorophyll production, or sometimes it is also called a photosynthesis sensor, which it is not, by the way, but it monitors the activity of the chlorophyll. And I think it's a good thing to do that as an additional sensor, but not instead of monitoring the rest of what the plant is experiencing. So you start always have to start with the basics, and that is also outlined in our book on digital growing. That if you don't monitor the complete balances of the plant, then you can't tell what the reason is why the chlorophyll activity is low or high. So only by knowing that it's maybe not optimal, it gives no clue of what the matter is. And so again, as an additional tool, it's okay, but not instead of the basic sensors. You need to have an insight in the total balance of the plant. So the water and the energy and also the simulates, and then you can analyze what is wrong in a specific situation.
Thank you, Jan. Next question is, and I think this will be in the sessions. I get they're asking. Somebody's asking, can you share with us the RTR graphics for each stage of the tomato plants? Is that Hein? Is that something that we'll be looking at in one of the sessions?
I just switched on the microphone. Yes, of course, I can show you a scatter plot, how it looks like. And I think I can, in one of the, we have at Hortitech, that's a small greenhouse for trials, where we have a trial. There I can show, so I can bring an example of the scatter plot, how it looks like. And in fact, that graph that will show you the basic lines you have set up as your strategy, in fact. So that's the desired greenhouse temperature related to the radiation some at a certain moment. And then with different dots, it will be pointed out how many days you were exactly on that line, how many days you were a little bit below that optimum line, and how many days you were realized a higher greenhouse temperature. So I will give an example next, or one of the next time. So that will be the 4 sessions with a practical result from our trial location.
Okay, thank you, Hein. I have this is a very specific question for you, Jan. Somebody's asking, where can we get the first 2 books in Mexico? And I'm assuming it's online. They can order that in your store. And I believe, let me just double check here. I'm just putting up the slide here. Books can be ordered on www.plantempowerment.academy. Is that correct, Jan?
That is correct, and we have the books in Dutch. We have them in English and also in the Spanish language. That means the basic principles are available in 3 languages. The digital growing is not available in Spanish, but in English and Dutch.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next question is, do you use gas exchange equipment to validate environmental factors, effects on crops?
Well, I'm not sure if that I understand exactly what the question is. Gas exchange equipment, that sounds like CO2 sensors. Maybe Carlos can be more specific.
Okay. Well, we'll wait for his response, Carlos. So if you're listening, if you'd like to maybe just validate your question with regards to what you mean by gas exchange, as Jan mentioned, are we referring to CO2? But we'll move to the next question. What do you think about growing tomatoes in indoor greenhouses versus growing in classical greenhouses?
Yeah, well, that's also a common discussion. but I think that when producing tomatoes in a bulk, that it's not wise to do that in a controlled environment in a closed room, and that you need the free energy of the sun to produce this massive amounts of tomatoes. So for very small amounts it's doable, but not for the mass that we want to have and to feed all all the people of the world.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jan. And another question. Well, this is along those lines, but for will issues in semi-closed greenhouses, will that be addressed in the session, in your in one of these 4 sessions?
The semi-closed greenhouses?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. As long as it's normal greenhouses that make use of the sunlight, then all principles are applicable. And I saw another question in the chat that was, does the book contain general information or plant specific? Well, the nice thing about these basic principles is that they are applicable for any crop. So for vegetables, but also for flowers and pot plants.
Okay. Well, I guess that answers the question then about do these strategies apply to cannabis crops as well? So as you mentioned,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
very good. Another question says here, in Mexico, we closely correlate the issues of temperature, relative humidity, and greenhouse shading, since the radiation we receive in some months of the year is very strong. What value is more important that we must take care of without sacrificing production and crop speed?
Well, that needs a little bit elaboration, but I'll try to keep it short. First of all, you have to prevent too high radiation on your crop. Every crop has its own specific maximum radiation level, so you have to take care of that. And the second one that's most important is the moist, the water content of the moist content of the air. In other words, you have to keep the RH or the humidity the RH high and or the humidity deficit low to assure that the plant can keep its water balance, so the stomata are open for the CO2 uptake. And temperature is less important then, although you also have to take care that it's not too high, of course. So I wouldn't recommend temperatures above, let's say, 35 degrees or something.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jan. Just getting back to the question from I think it was Carlos. Photosynthesis, transpiration measurements to validate the environmental sensors effects on plants. So that's getting back to the question about use gas exchange equipment to validate environmental factors. So
I see. Well, I can give the same answer as one of the previous questions. Sometimes it is useful to measure the photosynthesis with these gas exchange sensors, but the problem is when you measure a high or a low value, but you have no clue about what the reason is for that, then well, that doesn't help you so much. So always start with monitoring the basic balances, the water balance, the energy balance, etc. And if you have that, and then you measure a high or a low photosynthesis rate, then you can say, well, this is the reason, this is why that is. And then you can take the appropriate measures.
Well, we thank you, Jan. We're well over time, and I appreciate everybody hanging around for an extra almost 20 minutes over a 30-minute webinar. Or we're almost closing in on 1 hour, so we're not going to be able to answer all the questions. And of course, there's a lot of new questions coming up, so we're just going to take a couple more, and then hopefully we can answer your questions offline. And if you have anything specific, of course, you can reach out to us, and I will connect you with Hein or Jan. And there is one question in here that Hein, I think this is specifically for you. Will it be possible to implement this advice for plant empowerment in a Priva interface that's not web-based? So they're using they're not connected yet to our web platform, so they're using the standard Connext. You can answer that, Hein?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, Hein, you just if you could just unmute yourself.
There I am.
Perfect. Thank you.
The only thing you need the web-based platform for, so the operator platform, is to have insight in the RTR scatter plot. So all the other topics related to plant empowerment can be implemented in the Priva Connect computer. And when we speak about the RTR, still you can see the RTR, realized RTR of yesterday in the 24-hour temperature strategy. So there is no need for implementing the principles of plant empowerment. There's no need to have the operator system, so the web-based system. You can implement everything using just the Connect process computer. Is that an answer on the question?
Yeah, I think that that answers the question well. Thank you, Hein. I'm going to take one more question, and then we're going to close off today's session. And hopefully we see all of you join us in the Priva Academy. And as I mentioned earlier, the links to sign up for the Academy, the 4 different sessions, the live sessions that Jan and Hein will be presenting on, will be shared with you at the end. So once we close off this webinar, you'll get a page with information, the links required to get you there. But we will also be sending you all an email with the links as well. So if you do miss that, not a problem. So our last question is, do you use leaf temperature sensors? If so, is there a sensor that can spread out and catch several leaves at once, as the one-point sensors often slip off the leaf as the plant grows?
Well, that's a good question, because we recommend another type of leaf temperature sensors, and well, these are very well known. I think that is a temperature sensor that takes the average of an area of leaves of about 3 to 5 square meters. And so we do not recommend the spot sensors, but more the global sensor that takes a larger area of leaves into account, and preferably the top layer of the crop.
Thank you, Jan. So there are, thank you very much, Jan and Hein. There's a lot of other questions coming up, and we're going to try to get to those, answer some of those questions. But I think a lot of those will be also answered in the live sessions starting September 17th. Hein, Jan, thank you very much for your time today and for sharing the sessions that we're going to be doing live. I'm really excited to host those as well. And I think there's a lot of value in everybody joining us. Again, the links will be shared at the end of this webinar. Once we hit the stop button, you'll see a screen with the links. And then, and we're also going to send you the email and also share with you who won the free copy of the Plant Empowerment book. So thank you again, Jan, Hein. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks with the start of the series. And we wish everybody online today have a great week. And we look forward to seeing you on the Priva Academy. Thanks again for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Yeah.
I'm looking forward as well.
Very good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.